Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Adoptions from the Heart TV. Today, I'd like to welcome Ashley and Zyaire, who are going to share their experience of placing their child for adoption through Adoptions from the Heart. So welcome, guys.
Hello.
Hello.
And who's this one?
This is our second daughter, Zyaire.
Zyaire. How old is Zyaire?
6 months.
6 months. So do you want to share with us when you became pregnant with your first child and what kind of led you in the direction of calling Adoptions from the Heart?
So it all began when I turned 18 years old. Just turning 18, I was living with my grandparents at the time. My parents were living in New York. So my grandpa always had a understanding that when I turned 18, that I would be going to New York to live with my parents. But my whole life was always in New Jersey. That's how I ended up meeting him. I didn't want to just up and leave. So I was just gonna figure it out on my own. His mother had actually taken me in, and we were just all living together in one house. And I had found out that I was pregnant. So being that we didn't have our own place together and it was very crowded, we didn't know how we was going to support the baby. It all just became overwhelming. I tried my best to fight for her, to keep her. I was a manager at Wawa at the time, but it just wasn't enough. I worked throughout my pregnancy, and it wasn't until one night while working at Wawa that my water broke. We had the baby, and we just really had to discuss like what were our options, and he brought up adoption. So a social worker came in, she discussed the different options of closed adoption, an open adoption. I said I wanted to do open. So he called the first name that was on the list that she provided us, and that was Adoptions from the Heart. So when he told me about them, I was like, okay, I want to see where this goes. And that's when we met up with Jackie, who's been helping us with the process. And that's how we went from there.
What was it like when Adoptions from the Heart came out to meet with you? Because I think oftentimes people assume that if you call our agency, you're pressured into adoption. So I'm curious, like, what was your relationship with Jackie and just your ability to decide what you wanted for you and your family?
She was very understanding. It was a very emotional process. What she wanted to do to get us to be more comfortable, we all met up at Olive Garden, and that's when she really went into what Adoptions of the Heart is, their purpose. And she even told us about her story and how she's an adoptee. So that really is what like drew the connection into what I wanted for our child at the time, and how she reassured me that the organization will help make sure that our child is being provided for, supported for, we're in her life. So she really just built up the connection from there.
Wonderful. That's wonderful to hear. Zyaire, what was your experience in choosing the adoptive family and deciding on what type of open adoption you would ultimately want?
It was scary. I'm not gonna lie, because we can't just pick any person, because not everybody suits for the role. So I actually had assistance with Ashley. She was telling me like, no, not these people, because I was more so looking into the stuff that I liked as well. So all that was actually like hard to do, because that's my firstborn. I didn't want to give her up, but at the same time, we was in a bad situation.
And ultimately you picked a family, and do you have contact with that family through updates and visits and whatnot?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, we do. We're actually supposed to be meeting this Saturday to go to Sesame Place.
Oh, wow.
Hopefully it doesn't rain. Hopefully it doesn't rain.
And how soon after did you guys get pregnant again with your second child?
Oh, it was very fast. As soon as we started getting, all our money together and stuff like that to get a place of our own, we immediately got pregnant like a week after with this little one. And that was very stressful, because it was like we just, had to do adoption for our first. Now, are we going to have to do the same process with her? but it was just a little bit more different situation, right? Because we had our own place.
So it just sounds like circumstances had changed for you guys. Initially, one of the biggest reasons why you chose adoption was financial, right? Not having your own place, not having the means to be able to care properly for a child. But fast forward, you know, the second time around, you were in a better position and you were able to offer what you wanted for this child, and you ultimately decided to parent.
Yes.
Okay. Had you discussed at all with the adoptive family that you chose for your first child that you had been pregnant? Like, had they known that you were pregnant and going to parent this child, the second child?
Yes.
Yes. So when it was one of the picnics, the annual family picnics that the organization holds, that's when we had announced to them that we were pregnant and we were planning on parenting her. They were very supportive, and actually they gave us a lot of the stuff that our first daughter didn't need anymore. She's now using it.
That's wonderful. Yeah, I know sometimes when birth parents may go on to have other children, it can just cause a little bit of like a difference in your relationship with the family that you've placed with. And it sounds like for you guys, this family really embraced you getting pregnant again, and actually helped you in supporting you and giving you some items for this next child. And I think that's really important for our audience members to hear, because we want our adoptive families to recognize that birth parents do go on to, you know, do things in their life that may include getting married or having other children, and that's okay. And yes, it does cause a shift sometimes in the dynamic of things, but we want people to be supportive of birth parents and their choices that they make. What did that mean for you to have the support of the family when you were becoming parents again to your little one?
It was very hard because my situation is that most of my family, they're not really part of my life. It's been really difficult, especially with my parents in New York and my grandparents being here. Those are the only side of the family I can really depend on. So it was very uplifting that I had people that I can rely on for support, for guidance when it came to raising her.
Have both of your kids met, or is this weekend when they're gonna meet?
Yes, they have met during one of the picnics that happened recently.
That's great. So you guys attend the annual picnic every year. It sounds like it's something that is helpful for your visits with the family.
Yeah.
That's great. Yeah, we definitely encourage folks that if they are able to, you should invite your birth parents and come to an AFTH annual picnic. It's a nice space to connect adoptive families and birth families together. And it sounds like in your case, you're able to bring the kids, and the kids are going to be able to grow up and know each other, which is really beautiful. Overall, is there anything you want folks to know about your experience placing a child for adoption? Something that now that you've been able to kind of go through it, what you want the community to know, something that you feel like people still don't get about what it's like to place a child for adoption?
I want people to know that yes, it is very hard because nobody wants to be separated from their child, especially, you know, not a child that you relate to by blood. It's very hard, it's very difficult, and it's very painful, but this organization is really uplifting. They're very supportive, and they understand all that pain, that difficulty that birth parents go through having to be in that situation. So I don't want people looking at open adoption like, oh, you're just abandoning your child. Oh, you don't want to be part of their life. No, this organization sees that you want to be there, and they're going to help and support you to be in the child's life as much as possible.
That's wonderful. Thank you, Ashley. And how about for you, Zyaire?
I say y'all are very supportive. No matter how deep we are, like in our emotions, y'all listen to us. Sometimes we have our ups and downs of talking to Jackie, and Jackie was very supportive, and she was always concerned. I really respect y'all for always being there for us and always planning events like those. Like my family came out, and they were like, I like this. You know, because they only get to, it was like, what, their first time seeing her, whole family. And I was like, yeah, you know, As long as y'all don't do nothing crazy, that's all that matters.
Wonderful. Well, I really appreciate you guys sharing that. It sounds like you have had an overall good experience with adoptions from the heart, specifically your social worker, Jackie. Very important, whether you're a birth parent or an adoptive parent, that you build a good relationship with your social worker who is there for you before, during, and after placement. And I'm just happy to hear that things have gone well. I can imagine as a birth parent, there are some days that are harder than others. I know, Ashley, you touched on that it's not an easy decision to choose adoption, and that's a lifelong feeling that you're going to have. But we just appreciate you sharing your experience and allowing folks to better understand reasons why birth parents choose adoption and just what it's like moving forward. So thank you guys so much for your time. Good luck with your little one, and we appreciate you sharing.
Well, thank you so much for having us.
And please continue to tune in to future episodes.